Hello, class. Welcome to a massive overview on the trouble with education today. And I think it's relevant because this is the root of the problem. These teachers, these spoiled brat, unionized teachers who think they're irreplaceable and subsequently irrevocably wonderful, has made for some neo-Marxist brats who keep telling us how much the Western world sucks, how much white people sucks, how much Canada, America, and Britain suck, and how we're responsible for this whole horrible thing called white supremacy. White supremacy here in the real world never comes up, but in school, it's the backbone of all education. And I think this mess started, it was always bad, but in the 90s, and then it sort of died in the early 2000s. But in 2005, Larry Summers was fired for indicating that it's possible that maybe women don't have a predilection for STEM. And it started snowballing after that with trigger warnings and microaggressions and all this bullshit. Now we have Jordan, like the better the professor is, the more they're pilloried. We have Jordan Peterson on the chopping block for refusing to use dumb pronouns, or Janice Fiamengo is also going through all these what do you call them, tribunals, where she ends up having to pay a fine or something because she's violated the Marxist orthodoxy. And I think it's actually good news in a way, because the biggest problem with having kids, the only real cost was always college. Now that they've made college totally and utterly useless, then it's cheap to have kids. Don't send your kids to school. Now, it's not just college I want to talk about today. This goes down to K through 5 as an issue. But just to avoid the allegation of this being anecdotal evidence, I'm going to give you 20 examples of Western education, mostly American here. I'd say it's 95% American. 20 examples of the insanity that's going on in school, the insane leftist brainwashing. And the reason I got this list together, I started telling my viewers to send me screen grabs of their classrooms, of their bulletin boards, of their classes, and put education in the subject, and I'll compile them all. So here's my 20 favorite ones. Not all of them were submitted, but let's start with this one that doesn't have a link. A friend of mine in the burbs, she has to send her kid for an ADHD evaluation, and this is becoming very popular now with kids. They get bad marks for being rambunctious. One of the reasons young girls now have better grades than young boys is they're being academically penalized for being boys, for bouncing off the walls, as boys are wont to do. So they go to this ADHD psychiatrist, and if he can diagnose them with ADHD, they won't be penalized. So they'll go on Ritalin or something. So we have these kids avoiding losing marks by taking medication, and they can just sit in class like zombies. Boys sit there like zombies, like a Pink Floyd video. Education for K through 5 has become a heavy metal apocalyptic video about brainwashing. We don't need no thought control. So pharmaceutical companies can solve the problem of boys being boys. Nice education, folks. So that's number one. Number two, here's a clip from a teacher at a rally in Berkeley. Now, I know Berkeley is as radical as it gets, but it doesn't look unusual when you compare it to Madison, New York, Toronto. They all talk like this. So this is after, by the way, one teacher got up there and he said, "I've been living in a bunker for the past 5 months and I'm done with living in fear. I stand by my Latino students." That's a common thing they say, like Trump is going to start pulling Latinos and trans and disabled people out of class. These teachers are saying, "I stand by my students," as a social justice warrior. But after he does his speech, which you can find online, the guy, the sort of MC, says something very profound. Have we got that clip? Yeah, this guy in the hat.
Remember that no matter whether you're going in to teach, or you're going up to Sproul Plaza or Justin Herman Plaza, or you're going to Fruitvale later, education is political work.
Is that intense or what? No. Education is the opposite of political work. When you're talking about the Civil War, I want you to give my children both sides of the argument. You can be very biased when you tell the southern side and very biased when you tell the northern side if you insist on being subjective. But I want both sides of subjectivity. I don't want it to be political work for you. You're supposed to be like a journalist. An ideal journalist follows a hypothesis, and then when the data contradicts that, he goes off and follows it over there. That's what teachers should do. They should just give you the data, and it's up to you. You're not a social justice warrior, or at least you're not supposed to be. But here's 18 more examples. Number 3, here's some footage a kid sent me of one of his teachers recruiting for BAM. BAM is, by any means necessary, a very radical left-wing group that's up there with Antifa and BLM, and it's run by Yvette Falarka, who is also a teacher. Always teachers involved in this stuff, because if we lose this neo-Marxism in America, they're out of a job. But check out this radical classroom. It should be right in the middle, actually. This might be tough to find, John. But let's start with anywhere. And these kids are sending me things with their iPhones where they're sort of, half the time they're filming the ceiling and half the time they're filming their foot. But yeah, that's it. Let's hear that.
Schools like Oakland Tech, I think, are relatively safe from ICE actually stepping on because this is an organized student body. And all the more reason why we've got to, attack what is left of his policy, which is these silent deportations, which is a way to drive out the DACA students.
Okay, you catch what's going on here? Can you just pause it? First of all, what's this weird, rainbow here? There seems to be a strange gay agenda. That teacher's clearly gay. And he's saying that Trump is going to rip Latino students out of the classroom. And then they use this bullshit to sort of leak into he's going to attack gays in class. And we have to stand up and be unified. And he was just saying this other school, Oakland Tech or whatever, was able to beat back the brown shirts, the Gestapo. Oh, by the way, in the previous video I showed, they talked about the brown shirts quite a bit. The brown shirts. But this guy's saying we need to be unified as a body so we can beat back the brown shirts when they come to take our students away. And one of the ways we can do that is to join BAM. Let's see if there's anything left relevant on that.
And be in a situation where we're already working with people before the arrest happens, so that we can make Oakland ready. So yeah, there's the other paper that you see says if you see ICE, LUNATICS, don't walk on by. It's a set of concrete things to do.
This teacher, just stop. That's enough of that one. This teacher is telling their students how to fight ICE when they show up to catch illegals in their school, which I'm not familiar. Is that a pattern? Is that happening now? Are lots of kids being ripped out of school for being illegal? No, it is not. But it's the raison d'etre of modern teachers, post-Trump America. All right, here's a fun one. Number 4. My 4th example. So this girl is doing chalk drawings on the ground, which kind of embarrasses me, by the way, that's considered radical now. I want to write something that's pro-life with chalk on my school's ground, which the rain can wash away in a matter of seconds. But that's now revolutionary. So this teacher comes up to her and he says, you can't do that here. Free speech is about being in the free speech area, the designated location for free speech, nowhere else. It has to, isn't that the very definition of free speech, that you're free to do it anywhere? No, you have to do it in the zone. It's literally called the free speech zone. So she goes, no, I have permission to be here. I'm doing it. He then gets his students to erase her chalk with their own feet. And then when she says, stop doing that, I'm exercising my free speech. He goes, okay, I'm exercising my free speech by rubbing it out with my foot, which contradicts this whole thing about the free speech zone. I thought you could only do it in the free speech zone. Anywhere you play this clip will be fine.
You didn't have permission to record. I don't want to be recorded.
You have permission
There he
to
is.
put
Look.
it down.
Yes,
I
we
have
do.
permission to get rid of it.
Good to know.
This is our part of free speech. Do you disagree with our part of free
You
speech?
just said it has to be in the free
Absolutely,
speech zone.
I disagree.
Really?
And you disagree with mine too.
No. I don't. If you would have written this over there, I have perfectly fine with you doing it. I am perfectly fine with you.
Have you noticed
free
the way teachers talk,
But
too?
you're exercising
These
your
are
free
adults.
speech in a non-free
These
speech
college
area.
students are adults.
speech. Are not
There's a very sort of a patronizing tone of like, yeah, that's what I'm doing. That's how I talk to my 4-year-old. All right, we'll try to keep this moving here. Number 5. My buddy Kieran sent me this. The high school was talking about supremacism. You'll see there's so many of these that have supremacism in them. Do you have that one, John? Uh-oh, pressure's on. I gave John, here we go. So this is a class. It's a class about advertising. They're learning about advertising. I have no idea what this has to do with advertising, but you must learn the word supremacist. I don't know why it's cut into 2 lines there. And, of course, a supremacist is Donald Trump. He's an advocate for the supremacy of a particular group. Yeah, Americans. But go down. So racism is prejudice, discrimination, blah, blah, blah. And every time this teacher defines one of these isms, which shows you the pronunciation right below it, just in case, you'll note they're having some fun there in PowerPoint with fonts and tooling around, splitting words in half. This is how these teachers swallow up their day. But she includes anti-Trump memes in this PowerPoint. The moment when you are at a Trump rally and you define whether they're okay by their skin tone. You know those things that people do at Trump rallies all the time. Hello, I am from Africa and I am here to support Trump. No, bye-bye, Barack Obama. You're too dark to be at this rally. We have a tone chart. Keep going down. Every single one of these, yeah. A supremacist is, look at these graphics. Supremacist is based on any particular group. Of course, when they list these particular groups that think they're superior, they include, it's always whites, every single time. And this whole talk is actually Asian supremacist, if you want to use some normal logic, because they say, well, whites are doing well, ergo they cheated. So we live in a cheating white supremacist society. Okay. Asians do well in math. Is math Asian supremacist? No. They worked hard to get their good stuff. They didn't cheat. In fact, they had to overcome racism. Okay, so Asians are superior to everyone then, because not only are they the victims of racism, but they prosper more than whites. So we're living in an Asian supremacist society. That would seem the basic logic of what they're accusing us of. That's the amazing thing about all this. They started with the premise that whites cheated and whites are evil and we have to fight this white supremacist culture here in America. And that's just a fact. And now we'll go from there and try to fix this problem. No one questions the origins of this. All right, number 6. This one's a doozy. A professor discussing when is it okay to kill whites on a radio interview. Now, here's my take on these kind of guys. I think they're Sambos. They're Uncle Toms. You see, white liberals, they want to have a black friend who's a revolutionary. They don't want a guy like in a sweater vest who likes country music. That's not a good enough black friend. You want a black revolutionary. So this black professor talks about killing whites. You know, all his white friends go, I've got like one of the most hardcore black friends ever. He's like, I want to kill white people. Like, he doesn't want to kill me, obviously. He says, you get a pass because I'm kind of down with the brown. But yeah, he wants to kill you. And maybe I can get you a pass. I don't know. I'm in with the black people. And when he's talking about killing whites, by the way, it's 4 minutes before we get to when is it okay to kill whites. And there's so much rhetoric. And I like this example not because it's particularly egregious, murdering white people. I just like it because it shows the academic rhetoric and how they have their own language that just goes on and on and on. And it even has its own sort of iambic pentameter to it. Can we listen to him?
All of our slave foreparents who were enslaved and stolen from Africa,
foreparents?
all of the suffering,
Oh, I get it. Forefather is
during the
sexist.
civil rights movement have all accumulated in Obama himself, right? And what that does is it puts a public relations face on the history of enslavement. It puts a popular face on the suffering of African-descended people, and it puts a smile, a persona from black people that we can, in fact, talk about American racism without mentioning the threat of violence or social revolution at all. Now, 2 weeks ago, Jamie Foxx made a joke about how great it was for him to be able to kill all the white people in his new movie. And I saw it, and he's right. Practically every white person in that movie dies a very violent and well-deserved death for their participation in the enslavement of African-descended people. But the problem I have with that statement and it using the context of Django is that it's a fantasy where the deaths of white people are really just an entertaining spectacle. It's something that didn't really happen.
Okay, that's enough. Did you catch that? His problem with the movie Django Unchained is that the whites who were killed were fictional. They should be real people who die because it's time to kill white people. By the way, that was one question. When is it okay to kill whites? His answer is like 9 minutes long, and it just includes every cliche, every dumb academic colloquialism about white hegemony, blah, blah, blah. These students, when they get out into the real world and they start talking about intersectionality, they're going to remain severely unemployed. No one talks like that. No one talks about the white hegemony here in the workforce. Here in the workforce, everyone wants to get their job done and go home. And they want the company to prosper so they have a job tomorrow. racial politics don't really come up, unless, of course, you work in HR and your job is to slow everyone else down with your pedantic white guilt suffering bullshit. Excuse me. Number 7. This is just a random one this guy sent in. And sure, some of these could be lies, but the reason I chose 20 is because there's authority in numbers, and I'm hoping we get away from anecdotal evidence into you noticing a pattern here. My girlfriend was forced into labor this weekend by one of her professors. This begins final week. She teaches 38 kids and also has her own workload to finish her master's. This is the student. They were required to drive 4 hours away from Friday to Sunday evening. The 5 students in the class were forced to build a book so the professor could get the book out to the public. This was done in the most primitive way to make books. I don't know anything about publishing, but they were done by hand, stamped with ink, hand-folded, and hand-stitched. This bitch was literally running a sweatshop after the students paid a class fee of $350 on top of tuition. They worked on this book from 9 a.m. and didn't get back to their rooms until 10 p.m., both Friday and Saturday night. If this isn't indentured servitude, I don't know what is. And you know, by the way, the professor got some grant to make this book and then let it fall by the wayside and went, holy shit, my handmade book is due in 2 days. I know, I'll just use this free workforce sitting here and then give them credit. All right, number 8. Here is an assistant principal, also incredibly gay, who is mad at pro-lifers who are standing on a street corner near a school and talking about what they call a holocaust of babies.
What's happening?
No, I wish to protect my students from unsightly
But
things that they don't need to see.
Sir,
my students,
this is what
we
they
do not
do.
have a single pregnancy in my school. I've been here for 5 years. Nobody's
know?
I can't tell you if you do or
has
not.
How does he know this?
abortion. And you want to call me a liar while you're standing out here
not.
harassing teenagers.
I'm not harassing
You can go
anyone.
get a freaking life.
These children are being
You can go get a friggin' life. Have you noticed he's doing the white equivalent of that? You need to go get a life. I'm smarter than you. You're stupid. Go home.
They are cells. You're at a science-based school. Those are cells.
So you need to
You're at a
turn to
science
Jesus
base.
Christ.
He's pointing to a fetus going, those are cells.
Listen here, son. All right? I'm as gay as the day is long and twice as sunny. I don't give a fuck what you think Jesus tells me and what I should and should not be doing.
Whoa. Girl, you just got
Teacher wants
served.
to keep-
All right, that's enough. But have you noticed this tone, too, of protect our students? It's this sort of let the state control everything mentality that's permeating American culture to the point now where every time there's a rally and someone falls or someone's shouting, police! Police! We need to get the police involved. Not if someone was running a train on you at spring break. That's cool. That's fine. But if there's any kind of altercation, police! What's going on, police? It's really unhealthy. When I was a kid, if you had beef, you settled it at 320 at the abandoned baseball diamond down the block. Settled. We don't need the state involved. I don't need my teachers protecting me from the state. I don't need them blocking me from signs. Don't regulate my information, teachers. You're wildly biased. All right. Number 9. Principal discovered to be a communist. And you have to understand, these unions control information so well that when you see an allegation like a principal is accused of being a communist rattling a Brooklyn school, she's way more communist than you think. If they get any allegation, these are people, as James O'Keefe discovered, have to say the N-word and basically rape a student before they can get fired. So when you hear of a transgression, it made it through a hell of a sieve. I got to move it up here. This is taking too long. Number 10. Identifying whiteness. This was something a student viewer had sent in. So, National Education Conference to blame white teachers and students for school woes. Now, I don't like reading the editorial to you about this because it's obviously the writer's angle and his name is Zombie. But let's go down to the actual information that was disseminated to these students. White privilege, white responsibility, deepening our commitment as white allies in the struggle for racial equality in schools. To achieve racial equality in schools, all educators must be able to identify and communicate where their own personal whiteness plays out in the classroom. Now, I think this kind of shit is bad for black people. Because when you tell black kids that they're living in a racist hellhole, it kills their economic libido. They don't feel like becoming lawyers and accountants and making money because why bother? I'm just going to be pushed back down the ladder. Deepen your ability to focus a critical lens on your own whiteness and privilege and see how they impact your life through the tenets of critical race theory. God, the worst part about all this, too, is not that it's wrong, but that it's also incredibly boring. Can you imagine having to hear these lies all day about how evil you are for being white? Analyze how society constructs whiteness in the dominant norm in the U.S. Explore what it means to be a white educator leading for racial equality without perpetuating a system of white dominance. Can you go up there so I can see what that's from? I mean, imagine these kids in the workforce. Hi, are we going to be dealing with white dominance when we make these grapple grummets for our client in China? PJ Media, but what's the opening line there? A major national conference for teachers and school administrators starting on Saturday, October 10th in Baltimore will focus exclusively on race and, of course, racism. The two biggest problems in America today and the most important things to harp on and on and on about if you're an educator. Okay, number 11 now. Perspectives on Peace. This is a K through 5. Kindergarten to 5th grade program where these kids are shown a video about how shitty we are and how racist America is and how nothing's really changed since 1950. And if you're a black kid, people will still want to touch your hair every day on the way to school, which doesn't seem so bad to me, by the way. And German Shepherds are going to bite you. The cops are going to sick German Shepherds on you. Can you click on that one? Yeah, check out this video. Perspectives on Peace. So, that's good. I like kids. I don't like traffic jams. I don't like kids on their phone too much, but it's peaceful, I guess. Then there's children suffering. There's refugees. Black Lives Matter is here to help refugees and traffic jams and bring peace to the world. Because there's too much strife in the world. There's refugees and fires. And there's lying. People are lying. Stop bullying. Well, that's very controversial. What is all this hodgepodge? Peace begins with a smile, Mother Teresa. And then they have that black woman who's magic. She's one of the X-Men. And then a white cop touching a black, giving him a rose? And just a kid who's cold. I mean, I'm sorry, but this is made by lazy women. And they're doing a real half-assed job. You know the term motherhood statements? Well, it's become curriculum. Let's all be friends. Kids don't know about racism, okay? I remember my youngest boy, my middle kid, he noticed a bunch of his friends were black, and I had successfully gotten that word, that whole concept away from him. It's kind of your job as a parent and a teacher to get racism out of the discussion and just get people focusing on what matters. And he said to me once, he goes, hey, I just noticed something. Most of my friends have black skin. And I thought, thank you for saying black skin. Yes. That's what I was going for. You don't know what a black person is. You shouldn't know. You want to delay. It's like sex and Santa. You want to delay that for as much as possible because it's a fucking hindrance, this obsession with race and racism. And you're making me obsessed with it, just trying to defend the Western society from your ridiculous allegations. All right. Number 12. I know there's a lot here, but I had to do a lot to show you that this is a scourge. Tight jeans do not equal rape. This was up in a guy's law school. And I want to just tell you what he sent me in the email. It's gay to brag about going to a good school, but it's relevant to the context. I go to a very selective law school. My classmates are adults that will be policymakers, lawyers, and judges all over the country in a few years. We'll be expected to know and apply complex legal theories for our livelihoods. All this considered, for some reason, we have to be reminded of that real gray area in our law. Tight jeans are never an excuse to rape. Can you imagine the kind of Luddite cave person who thinks tight jeans are an excuse to rape? You had tight jeans. You had tight jeans. You show me your butt. You show me your butt. Meanwhile, women wear leggings. If anything, within the parameter of that idiocy, it should be focused on leggings, not tight jeans. What is this, 1980? We're in a ZZ Top video? That's in a law school. And again, we're seeing in law schools, I won't count this on my list, but law students being told they don't have to attend rape law classes because it's too damning. It's too worrying to have to fucking learn about rape law. What do you want to be, a lawyer who defends women who have been raped? No, thank you. Gross. Yeah. So kids, law students were told they don't have to attend rape classes. All right, number 13. On March 23rd, the Darla Moore School of Business will host a day of workshops to discuss diversity and inclusion challenges and possibilities. That reminded me, I should have put this on this list, but there was that professor from Duke University who was recently fired saying he doesn't want to go to one of these stupid things. They're boring. And he said, what was it? He said it will be intellectually deserted or something like that. I'll pull up, in post, I'll pull up his quote. There it is. I left room for it. But yeah, check out this one. D&I matters, and it matters to business. So we're going to do a seminar on LGBTQ 101. We're going to learn about queers in class because it's important for business. It actually is if you want to get a bunch of fake money, a bunch of free grant crap. Addressing microaggressions, which don't exist in the real world. We'll learn about those for an hour. And then we'll be building unity through diversity. That's going on till 4 p.m.? And then in the evening, after you're well fed, we can pay attention to diversity and inclusion. Oh, that's D&I matters. I'm getting it now. A competitive advantage you cannot replace. I challenge you to prove, by the way, that diversity is crucial to any team. Isn't meritocracy the most important thing? On my team, if I'm designing software, I want the best software designers. I don't care if they're albinos or not. And I don't care how many of them are transabled. All right, number 14. We got this one sent from Brian. School presidents. Now, he's got all these different school presidents who, and I know I'm going to sound like a xenophobe here because my only beef is that they're all immigrants. But surely the numbers here, when 100% are Ahmed Absakar and Thu Mo and Stephen Barnabanamas, look at them all. We've got one in the hijab there. The black one is probably from America. Lin Dang wants Nai Lee. They're not even like Michelle Kwan. Like they don't even have American first names. Is that all of them? Now, I know this is sort of a contentious area of criticism to say, why aren't there any white students running or any Western students running? Because you know by the names that they're all fresh off the boat. And my answer to that is, when you get to the numbers that 100% of the principals, 100% of the kids running for school president are are immigrants, I don't know. Let me make it easier for you to understand. Remember Spike Lee? A few years ago, he said, I don't like people coming into Harlem. If you're going to come into Harlem, fine, but it gets to the point where the numbers get to be too much, and there's sort of a disrespect for the original ones there, and they want to impose their own world, and shit got to change. Well, fuck that. That's what Spike Lee said, and he got in trouble for it, but it was also considered really cool. It's cool to be against gentrification. Well, isn't this a form of gentrification? It's immigration gentrification, and it's taking over our schools. Now, if this was just one example and everything else was normal, I wouldn't be bitching. But when every single potential is Ling Mi and Ahmed Manachis, I don't know, isn't that indicative of a problem here? But if you don't want to count that one, don't worry about it. We got plenty more. Number 15, whiteness, a definition. Now, this is a fun slide where students have to sit in class. Even if I was black, I'd just be going, can we stop talking about white people all the time? God, this is boring. I didn't take this class. Whiteness is a descriptor or identifier for light-skinned people with Western features. It is an experience that involves unearned privileges due to racism. It is an ideology, a social structure, what does that say? Or worldview that is based on a system of exploitation based on the idea of white supremacy. Capital W. I don't know why that has a capital W. White. Now this, sorry to be sexist, but this is just some fat, lazy woman sitting down at a keyboard, practicing her graphic design, making things red, capitalizing white, and then she goes, I had a rough day today. I got a lot done. I did my whole teaching day until 3 o'clock, and then I stayed later and did one of my little whiteness slides. People don't appreciate me enough. I think I need a bigger pension. 4 months off a year, that's not enough. I want my summer, 2 months of holidays, then another month and a raise. All right. What about this one? This is more queer families we need. This is a guy just taking pictures of his bulletin board. Please keep doing this, guys. Alex Jones is taking these too. It really beats me reading about it or Googling it. I love to see boots on the ground. We need more queer families. And as Garrett pointed out, it's quite possible here that the family is the dad and his tiny lover, and the woman there is their lawyer who just got them off with community service. He only has to do 30 hours of community service because they're in love. What is this queer family? Is the woman that used to be a man and the man used to be a woman? Is that a man and a woman but with different genitalia? You're pretty well a traditional family there. You've gone so far loony that you've come back around to normal. But this is just one thing. You have to resist traditional families. What are you resisting, by the way, when you build more queer families? Your natural aversion to queer families? Next on the list, we have this kid who calls himself Amadeus sending me a poster that's in his school that says, "Nevertheless, she persisted." And it's Linda Sarsour, still on her high horse, bitching about how evil white people are and America should be ashamed. A big part of her basis for America's shame is slavery. That was you, lady. That was Muslims. That was Arabs. So you standing next to some guy, black guy with respect to human rights, is total and utter taqiyya, which is Muslim for bullshit. The fact that she's running a women's march where she says, no, pro-lifers can't come. You're Muslim. Islam is pro-life. You fucking liar. Linda Sarsour is the greatest con woman in modern history. And the way she can triumph the hijab, which always, notice the hijab always makes you look like you're being born. It's a girl. I can't tell if she wasn't wearing makeup. She's made that a feminist symbol, and all these dumb liberals fall for it because it makes their dad mad. And whatever makes dad mad must be valid. All right. We're up to number 18. We're almost done. This was actually sent in, I think, to Alex Jones. I stole this one. And it's Trump University is a fraud. Now, Trump University was a controversy during the election. He never said it was like a university. It was a joke. No one thought they were going to a normal university, okay? It was like going to Cupcake U or something, or breakdancing university. It was a seminar you took for a few days. I can't remember how long it was, even if it was a year. It was a seminar you took to learn how to make money in real estate. It was like a Tony Robbins self-help thing. It was just a dumb little class to help people be savvy, but they turned that into university fraud, which is a total and utter farce. But anyway, this business school is using the given that Trump University was a fraud as a way to teach you about business. Now, can you blow that up? I can't read it very well. Look at some of these questions. Identify and explain how the elements of the fraud diamond are present in this case. B, if the school is a fraud, how do you explain its 98% approval rating? Yeah, good question, teacher. How many students from any school, even UWEC, know if their education is fraudulent? Actually, this is kind of sounding open-minded a little bit. Can we go up to the top there? What does he say at the very top? No, the second paragraph. Go down a little bit and go up a little bit. Relate the types of fraud, both types of defalcation and financial reporting fraud, to a job you have personally had. Then a brief description of it. Brief descriptions of 4 instances of fraud the company could be subjected to or subject to. So the class is about fraud, and they decide to focus on a Trump University fraud article. That one actually wasn't so great as an example of education being fucked up, because at least she left the opportunity that Trump University could be innocent. But I've noticed this with a lot of these submissions is, why is Trump entering the academic vernacular? Why is it so important to squeeze Trump in there? Like that Berkeley professor that said that teaching is political. All of his examples were about fighting Trump. All right, this is number 19 from it's a guy named Morgan, and he says, I'm in a class right now called Advertising in American Society. It's taught by an old unmarried liberal cow who talks a lot about her cats and Humane Society volunteer work. Anyway, I have no idea why these questions are on a test about advertising. Can we click on that one? This is an example. A lot of these two are bitter gays who hate the fact that they feel weird in today's society, and angry spinsters who let their eggs dry up. Oh, yeah. Okay. Who made the following statement? I don't think American elections should be bankrolled in America's most powerful, blah, blah. They should be decided by the American people. Barack Obama, that's question 6, not Donald Trump. This is an advertising exam these kids are doing. Learning a lot about advertising, are we, in this class? Do another one. Have you got a bunch?
It's a new one, and I already switched.
Oh, sorry. Wow, you're so fast, I didn't even notice. How many voters in 2016 didn't even turn out to vote due to negative campaigning and political ads? and due to their general distaste for the candidates themselves. What percentage of U.S. voters didn't even bother to vote? You already asked that at the beginning of the question, by the way. Stop repeating yourself. And this is you apologizing for Hillary losing? What the hell has that got to do with advertising? All right, next one. Question 19. What is the Paris Agreement? A multinational agreement devised to slow the effects of global warming. Now, I am sick. I used to work in advertising, and it drove me nuts how few people were familiar with the Paris Agreement. We'd be trying to do an ad for Realtor.com or Dos Equis, however you pronounce that weird, most interesting man beer. That was actually a problem with that campaign, by the way. They made the guy too interesting, and people forgot what he was advertising. This is an advertising test. Okay, one more. Which of the following has produced a large amount of CO2 gases? Blah, 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 blah. All right. So there's 19 examples. I want to show you the final example of why academia in the Western world, particularly American, Canada, and Britain, is a complete fucking mess. When you brainwash these kids and make them incapable, when a vice principal stands in front of people holding pro-life signs and shields them from these signs and tells them all day and night from K on that Donald Trump is going to kill them, that ICE is going to take their Hispanic friends away. When you brainwash these kids and then also put them in a bubble and protect them from trigger warnings and microaggressions, you make what's called a complete lunatic. Check out this kid, this woman, I guess, facing a Trump sign on her campus. She's not even mad, by the way. This is how they talk. This is her saying, I disagree. And she's using the tools that she learned in education. Dumping yogurt out on the ground, obviously, is a good way to express yourself.
This is why I don't believe in the legalization of marijuana. This is exactly why I don't believe.
Why don't you go up and shred him with your arguments? Oh, because you have none.
Right here on the Western Washington campus, she's going nuts.
She scribbled chalk on the ground.
With the Trump sign.
Borders, law, liberty. Those are all real things, lady. And here's my favorite part. Look at this. No, I'm good. No, I'm good. That's enough of that. No, I'm good. She's having a conversation. This is how these students talk, and you made them that way by brainwashing them. Now, this isn't the state's job. This isn't the police's job to solve this problem and help these kids and stop them from being brainwashed. It's our job as parents to catch our teachers brainwashing our kids, catch this neo-Marxism, and nip it in the bud. Not just because it's not true, but because it's hurting our children. Education today is child abuse, and if you let your kids get subjected to this crap without helping them open their minds and experience a thing called freedom, then you are leaving them crippled in the real world and unable to survive. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to Rebel Edge, where you can find all the videos that are exactly like this one, but different.